Okay. Good morning. Happy New Year. I have been late on posting a video in January just because it's been a rough start to the new year. Transitioning back to school on top of having a full schedule, working full time on top of training MMA and going to the gym 3 to 4 times a week, on top of I'm trying to get everything figured out and situated into the dreams I want to invest in. On top of being sick, on top of being triggered every fucking week of this month, and that is what our episode is about. Triggers. Unfortunately, the sad thing with triggers when it comes to your mental health is that you don't know you're triggered until you're already triggered. So therefore, you're sitting here like, damn, that shit really set me off. That shit really pissed me the fuck off. Like, why am I so upset about it? And it's like you get triggered and then you have to work the mental after the fact because you don't know it's a trigger until you're triggered. So, episode 4, triggers. This month has been a very triggering month for me. Let's start with the first week of January. First week of January, I went to a hockey game with my family. And at the dinner, the incident when I was a child got brought up to where the incident was my cousin threw a fork in my head, legitly hit me in my head right here. It stuck, okay? Probably why I'm hyper independent, because once it got stuck, the adult at the time wouldn't get it out and called the fire department. And like, I'm like, it's in there, help, get it out. Like, and because like this, she didn't know what to do, honestly, because who knows what to do when a child has a fork stuck in their head? Absolutely fucking nobody, right? So I'm like outside, like I turned the corner, boom, crying, like, help me get it out. Like, I'm a child, I'm traumatized, like I'm crying. It sucks, you know? And she goes hysterical. This is my aunt at the time. Well, my aunt, still my aunt to this day, Aunt Wendy, because that was poor wording, but whatever. My Aunt Wendy, and she goes hysterical. She's like calling the fire department, like, what do I do? There's a fork stuck in her head. I don't know how this happened. I know how it happened. So this is the whole rundown. My Aunt Wendy made breakfast. I grabbed my plate. I have my fork on my plate. I got my eggs. I got my bacon. On TV is Nickelodeon. I was not a Nickelodeon fan at the time. I wanted to watch Cartoon Network. I did not see that her daughter was behind the recliner playing with toys because she likes Nickelodeon. If I would have saw that she was back there, I would have changed the channel. I changed the TV channel. Here comes a fucking toy truck over the recliner like a grenade in Call of Duty. Granada! Pfft. That shit hits me and my plate, and I'm pissed the fuck off. So I get up with my plate still in hand because I had the eggs already spilled out. The fork is still on the plate. So I get up. I'm fixing to pick up this big toy truck to throw back at her. The fork slides off my plate towards her feet, and before I could even throw the truck, she threw the fork. And me like a dumbass, because I'm like in throwing position, so it's like simultaneously. Like, I'm throwing the fork and she's throwing the fork and I'm throwing the truck. And I'm sitting there as I see my shot go. I see her shot right there in the side of my head. And it stuck. It definitely stuck, and it's probably why I am cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs some days. Who knows? Probably why my head hurts on that side of my head a lot of times. And probably sometimes why when they do an MRI, yeah. When they do one of those, they see like a little spacey space. Anyway, so I had a fork stuck in my head, and my aunt's hysterical, and she decides to call the fire department. And meanwhile, the fork is still in my head chilling. I'm like, I done went outside crying. I'm on the ramp. She's on the phone with the fire department. I'm like, are you gonna pull it out, or am I gonna have to pull it out? Like it's not, and in my head I was like, fuck it. Not gonna help me. I'll do it my motherfucking self. So I legit like placed my hand here and pulled the fork out myself, handed it to her with the blood on it, and then I just walked in the house. And then when the fire department got there, she's like, the fire department wants to give you a shot. Boop! I didn't want the shot. So I bucked to the bathroom and I locked myself in the bathroom until things settled. I was fine. And I didn't go to the doctor afterwards. It's interesting story. So that was brought up at the hockey night, right? And see, I've been in therapy because of all the other traumatic shit I've had going on in my life. But once you start therapy and you start like figuring out you and you start figuring out your triggers, mentioning that story was a trigger for me because I had already went through something worse than that in childhood, but then that just added on top of the feeling of discardment, abandonment, and hyper independence. Well, the scenario probably is another issue why I'm hyper independent anyways, because nobody would help me, so I just help my motherfucking self by pulling that shit out myself. But at the time, I remember feeling the whole time growing up that these motherfuckers don't care about me. Like, just be based on like the abuse I went through. And that's just one incident. It's a funny fucking story now. And I still love my cousin. She loves me. But you know, it's a scar. It's always going to be a scar because it adds to the fact of how sometimes the words that were said to me back then created this feeling of not being wanted and not good enough. Like, that feeling's been created since childhood. Any slight criticism from childhood, that's been there. Yeah, but I still love my cousin at the end of the day. It's still love. So I have that incident. Another cousin bullied me and pushed me through a glass table, which that was interesting. Another cousin beat me up. And then me and my siblings beat each other up all the time. So that's just kind of like a sibling thing. So when you go through like all of your childhood traumas, you're just like, some things can be a trigger and some things shouldn't be brought up. Like, I honestly forgot I had a fork in my head until it was brought the fuck up. But it is what it is. So that's trigger 1 for January. Trigger 2, my parents got sick and I had to take care of them. Why was it a trigger? It wasn't a trigger until I took my mom to an ER. And when I was in the ER, because I lost my daughter in the NICU, 2023? Yeah, in 2023, I lost my daughter in the NICU. And so when I was sitting in my mom's hospital room and hearing the beeps and hearing the dings, I was having flashbacks. I'm not going to talk about what type of flashbacks. I was just having flashbacks. And I went to the doctor following that, and I explained the experience to him. He was like, yeah, it sounds like you had PTSD. Fan-fucking-tastic. Now I have PTSD with ERs because because of the trauma I've been through. Another trigger. See, and that's the whole thing. You'll never know a trigger until you go through the trigger. And then once you go through the trigger, and then once you have understanding of why it triggered you, then you can grow from it. And then you can know the next time a similar trigger happens. Like, I know with the fork story that I'm probably going to be triggered again, but I'll be like, yeah, it's some bullshit. Look at how they treat you now. Don't look at how they treated you when you were younger. How about that? That's what I have to tell myself. Look at how they treat you now and don't pay attention to how they treated you younger. But you know, some scars are hard to erase. And I will say that some scars are very hard to erase, like from your soul. Because that's why I have trust issues. I trust no one at the end of the day. Because if my own family can turn on me, motherfucker, who are you as a friend? You can turn on me at any motherfucking time, baby. Anytime. So I really don't trust anybody. I'm a work in progress, y'all. Like, it's a lot of shit to be worked through. So I had PTSD from the ER. Then I got triggered again because I got kicked out of school for one day for finances because I couldn't pay the deadline of the tuition until 2 days later. So that happened, but I fixed that scenario. Then what happened? Then I got triggered by I was talking to somebody and I got triggered. I don't forget, but I got triggered that on the 4th week. Probably last week sometime. And then now here I am, triggered again with finances because clearly a girl's broke and is about to go on OnlyFans. So it's okay. We got to get it how I live, and we got to get more money. And I'm not working 2 jobs. I'd rather sacrifice my morals than work 2 jobs, because I've worked 2 jobs before and that was when I had my first mental episode, when I worked 2 jobs. Like, I legit worked 2 fucking jobs. Actually, technically 3 if you want to count coaching. And was going to school full time. So, and I was about to lose my shit because nobody around me was working harder than me. And I was making more sacrifices than all them motherfuckers. We're not going to get in that. That's going to be another episode. So, the moral of the story today is, once you learn a trigger, you got to notate that trigger. So, and if you can't get untriggered, the best way to get untriggered is to dissect why you were triggered. And the best way to do that is journaling. And if you don't journal, you're missing out. You're missing out 100%. Journaling and figuring out how or why your brain works is the best method to understanding you. Because, baby, I'm still trying to understand me and why I have motherfucking 8 different personalities in my head. But that's all I got for today on episode 4, Triggers. I hope you guys have a great Tuesday, because today is Tuesday. Unfortunately, I had to take PTO today because of finances. But moving on, we'll figure all that shit out on the back end. So I'm out here fixing to go right, fixing to invest in myself and live my dreams. But have a great Tuesday. Turn up today if you're having a good day. If you're having a terrible Tuesday, I'm sorry, love. It'll get better. The sun will always rise tomorrow, as it always fucking does, and reminds us that this bitch is a miserable motherfucking place. All right, toodles.